What happens when two powerhouse women collide on live television and neither is willing to back down? The tension in Studio 6B was so thick you could cut it with a knife as Khloe Kardashian sat across from Kelly Clarkson, her jaw set in a way that anyone familiar with the Kardashian family would recognize as trouble. This wasn't going to be a typical celebrity chat. What unfolded next left everyone in the studio questioning whether they were witnessing entertainment or a full-blown confrontation. Before diving into the explosive encounter, Kelly Clarkson leaned forward in her signature bright yellow chair, her usual warm smile in place as she shuffled through her note cards. The audience buzzed with excitement, phones raised to capture every moment, as they always did when a Kardashian graced the stage. Khloe sat poised, her long blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing a form-fitting emerald green dress that radiated confidence. But there was something different about her energy that day. Something even Kelly seemed to notice as she glanced at her producer off-camera. "So, Khloe," Kelly began, her voice carrying that familiar Texas warmth that had made her America's sweetheart. "Let's talk about your new show. Watching the trailers, it looks like you're really putting yourself out there in ways we haven't seen before." Khloe's smile was polite, but guarded. "Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, this project is really close to my heart. It's about showing people that vulnerability isn't weakness, that sharing your struggles can actually be empowering." "That's beautiful," Kelly nodded. But then her expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Speaking of vulnerability and struggles, I have to ask, and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. There's been a lot of conversation online about your family's influence on beauty standards, particularly among young women." The change in Khloe's demeanor was immediate. Her shoulders straightened, and that guarded smile tightened. "I'm sorry. What exactly are you asking me?" Kelly pressed on, unaware of the growing tension. "Well, there are critics who say your family, through social media and various business ventures, promotes unrealistic beauty standards. Some mental health experts have even linked this to increased rates of body dysmorphia among teenagers." The studio fell silent. Khloe's green eyes flashed as she tilted her head. "Kelly, I came here to talk about my show, about empowerment and healing. Are you really going to sit there and blame me for society's issues with beauty standards?" "I'm not blaming you," Kelly said quickly, though her voice carried the persistence that had made her successful. "I'm just wondering how you respond to those concerns, especially as someone who's been open about your own struggles with body image." Khloe let out a short, humorless laugh. "My own struggles? You mean the ones that came from people like you? Media personalities constantly picking apart everything about my appearance since I was in my 20s? The struggles that came from being called the ugly sister, the fat one, the disappointing Kardashian?" The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Kelly's eyes widened. "Khloe, I would never say those things about you or anyone." "Maybe not directly," Khloe shot back, her voice rising enough to cut through the stunned silence. "But your industry did. And now you want to sit here and question me about beauty standards? That's rich, Kelly. Really rich." Kelly tried to regain control. "I understand that you've faced unfair criticism, and I'm sorry for that. But don't you think there's a responsibility that comes with having such massive influence, especially over young people?" "Responsibility?" Khloe's voice sharpened. "The only responsibility I have is to myself and my daughter. I don't owe society anything. Least of all an apology for existing in my own body or building businesses that celebrate confidence." The tension was now electric. Kelly glanced toward her producer, but she was in too deep to back out. But Khloe, when young girls see heavily filtered photos or dramatic transformations without context about the work that went into them, don't you think that sends a message? That was the breaking point. Khloe's composure cracked. Heavily filtered photos? Dramatic transformations? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Are you calling me fake, Kelly? Because if that's what this is about, If you brought me here to humiliate me on national television, then you picked the wrong Kardashian." Kelly's face flushed red. "That's not what I meant, and you know it. I'm talking about the broader impact of social media culture." "No, you're talking about me," Khloe snapped. "You're sitting there in your perfect little studio with your perfect little life, judging me for choices I've made about my body, my business, my family. Who gave you that right?" The studio lights seemed to burn brighter. Kelly shifted uncomfortably, realizing she'd gone too far. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. "Nobody gave me the right, Khloe. But I have a platform, just like you, and I use it to ask questions that matter to my audience." "Questions that matter?" Khloe laughed bitterly. "Or questions that get you clicks and ratings. Let's be honest, Kelly. You didn't invite me here to celebrate my new project. You brought me here to create a moment, to trend on social media. Well, congratulations! You're about to get exactly what you wanted." The audience was frozen, some covering their mouths, others reaching for their phones to capture what was clearly becoming television history. Kelly's producer was making frantic gestures, but both women were locked in. Kelly's voice hardened, her Texas accent thickening. "That's completely unfair, and you know it. I built my career on authentic conversations. I don't ambush my guests." "Authentic conversations?" Khloe stood up, towering over Kelly in her heels, her green dress glittering under the lights. "There's nothing authentic about this. You want to talk about responsibility? Let's talk about yours. You have millions of viewers who trust you, who look up to you, and you use that trust to tear people down under the guise of journalism." Kelly remained seated, but her knuckles were white as she gripped her note cards. "I am not tearing you down," she said firmly. "I'm asking legitimate questions about influence and responsibility in the digital age." "Stop hiding behind buzzwords," Khloe snapped, beginning to pace slightly in the small space between their chairs. "You want to talk about influence? You've influenced millions of people to believe it's okay to question a woman's choices about her own body. You've influenced them to think that success and confidence have to come with apologies and explanations." The camera operators were capturing every angle of the confrontation. In the control room, executives were likely panicking, but they couldn't look away. This was the kind of raw, unfiltered television people would talk about for months. Kelly finally stood up, matching Khloe's energy. "And what have you influenced them to believe? That happiness comes from a bottle, a syringe, or a filter? That the answer to insecurity is transformation instead of acceptance?" The words hit like a physical blow. Khloe's eyes narrowed to slits. When she spoke, her voice was deadly quiet. "How dare you? How dare you stand there and psychoanalyze me like you have any idea what I've been through? You think I made changes to my body because I was insecure? You think every choice I've made was about seeking approval from people like you?" "I think," Kelly said, her own voice rising to match Khloe's intensity, "that you've built an empire on selling insecurity while claiming to promote confidence. And I think deep down, you know that's true." The accusation hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. For a moment, neither woman spoke, but the tension between them was so thick it was almost visible. Khloe's chest rose and fell rapidly, her flawless makeup unable to hide the flush of anger spreading across her face. "You want to know what's true?" Khloe's voice was shaking now, but not with fear, with rage. "What's true is that I've spent my entire adult life being compared, criticized, and judged by people who don't know me. What's true is that I've turned that pain into power, that criticism into currency. I've built businesses, supported my family, raised my daughter. And yes, I've made choices about my body that make me feel confident and strong." She took a step closer to Kelly, who instinctively backed up. "What's also true is that I don't owe you or anyone else an explanation for those choices. The fact that you think I do, the fact that you think you can sit there," And judge me while pretending to care about young women makes you exactly the kind of person who created the problem you're pretending to care about. Kelly's face was red now. Whether from embarrassment or anger, it was hard to tell. I'm not hiding behind anything. I genuinely care about the impact we all have, especially those of us in the public eye. Then why? Khloe shot back. Didn't you ask me about the millions of dollars my family has donated to mental health organizations? Why didn't you ask about the body positivity campaigns we've supported? Or the young women who've told us that seeing us embrace our flaws helped them embrace theirs? Why did you choose to focus on the negative narrative that gets headlines instead of the positive impact that doesn't? The question caught Kelly off guard. For the first time since the confrontation began, she seemed to falter. We did plan to talk about your charitable work, she started weakly. When? Khloe demanded. After you finished tearing me apart? After you got your viral moment? After you satisfied your audience's appetite for watching successful women get knocked down a peg? Kelly's mouth opened and closed without sound. The audience was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Even the camera crew seemed frozen, unsure whether to keep filming or cut away from what had become painfully uncomfortable to watch. The silence stretched on before Kelly finally found her voice again. But when she spoke, there was a tremor in it that hadn't been there before. Khloe, I think you're misunderstanding my intentions here. I'm not trying to attack you personally. That's exactly what you're doing, Khloe fired back, her voice cutting through the studio like a blade. You're sitting there with your wholesome image, your Grammy Awards, your perfect career trajectory, and you think that gives you the right to question my journey. But here's what you don't understand, Kelly. I didn't have the luxury of being America's sweetheart from day one. Kelly's composure was slipping, her media training failing her as the confrontation turned personal. That's not fair. I've had my own struggles, my own challenges in this industry. Your struggles? Khloe's voice rose, raw and furious. What were your struggles, Kelly? Having too many hit songs? Winning too many awards? Being too beloved by the public? Because my struggles were being told I didn't deserve to be in the same family as my sisters. Being called names I can't even repeat on television. Being made into a punchline by people like you. The accusation hit Kelly like a physical blow. Her face went pale, then flushed red again. I have never made you into a punchline. I have never said anything disparaging about you or your family. You don't have to say it directly, Khloe shot back, grabbing her purse from beside her chair. You just have to book me on your show under false pretenses, smile that fake smile, and then ambush me with questions designed to make me look bad. You just have to perpetuate the narrative that successful women, especially women like me, need to be taken down a notch. Kelly stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the studio floor. That is absolutely not what this is about, and you know it. I'm asking questions my audience wants answered. Your audience, Khloe repeated sharply, slinging her purse over her shoulder. Your audience of perfect suburban moms who love to judge women they think are beneath them. Your audience who feels better about themselves when they see someone like me get criticized. That audience? The insult was so pointed that Kelly recoiled. How dare you characterize my audience that way? These are good people who care about important issues. Important issues? Khloe's laugh was bitter. Like whether or not I've had plastic surgery. Like whether my Instagram posts are too filtered. Those are the important issues your good people care about? Not poverty, not climate change, not actual problems that affect real lives. Kelly's voice rose again, defensive and trembling. We cover all kinds of topics on this show. Today, we're talking about social media influence and its impact on young people, which is absolutely a real issue that affects real lives. No, Khloe said coldly, taking a step toward the studio exit. Today, you decided to use me as a prop in your morality play. You invited me here not as a guest, but as a target. And the worst part is, You probably convinced yourself you were doing something noble. The studio was chaos now. The producer was waving frantically, audience members whispering, camera operators trying to follow Khloe's movement toward the exit, while still catching Kelly's stunned expression. "Khloe, please!" Kelly called out desperately. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Why don't we sit back down and start over?" Khloe stopped and turned, her expression a mix of disbelief and disgust. "Start over? You think after everything you just said? After the way you treated me? I'm going to sit back down and pretend this didn't happen? You think I'm going to give you the chance to finish whatever character assassination you had planned?" "I didn't have anything planned," Kelly protested, but her voice was weak now. "This was supposed to be a conversation?" Khloe said bitterly. "No, Kelly. This was supposed to be a setup." Her voice was deadly calm now. "And you know what? I'm done being set up. I'm done being the acceptable target for people who want to feel superior. I'm done pretending that questions like yours come from a place of genuine concern instead of judgment and ratings." She turned toward the audience, addressing them directly for the first time. "I came here today to talk about a project that means everything to me, something that could actually help people. Instead, I got interrogated about my personal choices by someone who's never walked a day in my shoes." Kelly tried one more time, her voice almost pleading now. "Khloe, that's not what happened here." But Khloe was already walking away, her heels clicking against the studio floor with each determined step. Just before she reached the exit, she turned back one final time, her voice carrying across the silent studio with crystal clarity. "Kelly, I hope your ratings were worth it. I hope when you go home tonight and look at yourself in the mirror, you remember that you had the chance to lift another woman up today, and instead, you chose to tear her down. That says everything about who you are and nothing about who I am." With that, she pushed through the studio doors and was gone, leaving Kelly standing alone in front of a stunned audience. Her note cards were scattered on the floor, and her perfectly planned interview lay in ruins. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of Kelly's shocked expression as she tried to process what had just happened. And there you have it, one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. What began as a simple question about beauty standards escalated into a full-blown battle about respect, responsibility, and the way women treat each other in the public eye. What do you think? Did Kelly cross a line with her questioning, or was Khloe too sensitive to legitimate criticism? Let me know in the comments below. Sa to sein,